Good afternoon, everybody. Big Mike back here with you once again. Welcome back to Big Mike Talks, where we finish out the week in pro wrestling. Now, like I said on Thursday, I will be splitting these videos up just so they're not super long videos, and we get to cover a little bit more in each. So, Thursdays I'll cover Raw, I'll cover NWA Power, I'll cover MLW Underground, and AEW Dynamite. Saturdays I'll cover Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, SmackDown, and Rampage. Now, this week I did not watch SmackDown because I was participating in some St. Patrick's Day shenanigans. A very late happy St. Patrick's Day to those who celebrate. But for now, I'm going to skip SmackDown, covering SmackDown, and go right into what I think is the most underrated show, weekly show on the web, Impact Wrestling. Now, throughout the evening, we see PCO hunting Eddie Edwards, coming into town and calling out, "Eddie! Eddie!" And it looks like something out of a horror movie. That will be a revelation for later, so sit tight on that one. So our first match of the evening, it's pretty much a banger. You have Mike Bailey and Jonathan Gresham teaming once again, taking on Decay. That's Black Taurus and Crazy Steve. And boy, oh boy, they put on a heck of an opener. Very quick, but not like a fast match. Taurus got in there, did a lot of power stuff. Gresham and Bailey doing some great technical stuff together and working really, really well as a team, including the finish, which saw Gresham holding on to Crazy Steve on the outside of the ring, Mike Bailey hitting the spin kick in the corner, and the Ultimate Weapon, which has really become my new favorite finishing move in wrestling, to pin Black Taurus. And honestly, that was a fun match. Great way to open the show, and I can't wait for more. Next up, we have Steve Maclin versus Heath in a sort of kind of squash match. Heath did get some offense in, but Maclin was pretty on point tonight, including a KIA for the win. It was a fine match, a bit of a palate cleanser, but Maclin is doing such a good job that he's kind of earned his world title shot at Rebellion. And don't worry, we'll get to that. Next, we see Mike Bailey backstage with Jonathan Gresham, pretty much saying, "Oh, we did great as partners, but I want one more shot at you, so at Sacrifice, they're going to run it back." So, I'm in. We then have the weirdest match of the evening, maybe even of the whole week, as Johnny Swinger, who's looking to rack up 50 wins to get a world title shot, or a title shot, taking on Jay Vidal, who is the stylist for Giselle Shaw. And there was this weird backstage thing where they ran into each other, and Swinger thought he wasn't a wrestler, but apparently he is a very surprising wrestler. I didn't know how good he was, and he showed me some good stuff on Thursday. He's a heck of a competitor. Zicky Dice, Swinger's manager, tries to get involved. He then gets thrown out, as does Shaw and Evans. Then, during the match, Purrazzo jumps Shaw, gets taken out by Evans. So we're going to see another match between them at Sacrifice. So we'll see that. And then after a beautiful dropkick by Vidal, he gets the win. Now, next up, an interesting beat in this storyline as the designer backstage with Sami Callihan saying, "Oh, beating Rhino last week wasn't step 6. It was to..." What did he say? It was to, like, show your resolve after a loss or whatever it was. It's some philosophical BS. And kind of a little payback for Sami Callihan costing Khan in his match against Kazarian. So yeah, we're gonna see that. It is then revealed that next week we're gonna get Mickie James teaming with Tommy Dreamer against Masha Slamovich and Bully Ray. That should be a fun one. And then we get the Eddie Edwards promo. He's out there. He's saying, "I'm done dealing with my past. After what happened last week to PCO, I'm ready to move forward." Out comes PCO, ready to rock house. And then out comes Kenny King, former member of Honor No More, with Eddie Edwards at the lead. And they just start beating poor PCO down, including a gnarly-looking tornado DDT. And, yeah, it looks like Eddie Edwards and Kenny King are going to team up, and I'm there for it. We then get a backstage reuniting of former WWE Tag Team Champions Santino Marella and Vladimir Kozlov, although we cannot call him Vladimir Kozlov due to copyright. So, he didn't really get a name. So, then up comes Dango and Henry, and it is made next week that Dango and Henry are going to team up against Moose and Brian Myers. So, that should be another fun one. Next up, we got the Knockouts Tag Team titles on the line as the Death Dolls, tonight being represented by Rosemary and Taya Valkyrie. Yep, I told you we'd get to them. Take on the Coven, which is Kylan King, who has made her non-BTI Impact debut, and Taylor Wilde, which it's interesting to see her back. A lot of starting with the bigger gals coming first, so Taya and Kylan, and that was a hoss fight if I've ever seen one. A lot of good tags in, and yeah, match ends after a spear and a road to Valhalla, which was then blocked. A roll-up by King for the win, and your new Impact Tag Team Knockouts Tag Team Champions, the Coven. Now, if you've seen my earlier video on Thursday, we know Taya Valkyrie is now in AEW, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, because she had her first match in AEW. And finally, we have our main event of the evening, a 6-man tag team match playa, as we got Josh Alexander, Rich Swann, and Frankie Kazarian taking on Bullet Club, that being Chris Bay, Ace Austin, and Kenta. Well, I am so happy Kenta's spending a little time in Impact. Even if it's a little nothing, it's fine. It's cool. It's what Jay White did with when he was over here in the States during the pandemic. That was a lot of fun. And this match was very back and forth, a whole lot of fun. But the win after an ABC 1-2-3 and an Art of Finesse and a fold, the winners are Bullet Club. Now, this was meant to be a warm-up match for Josh Alexander, Swann, and Kaz, because they got a big old test ahead of them at Sacrifice as they take on Time Machine. That's Kushida, Alex Shelley, and Chris Sabin. So maybe Bullet Club gets added to that? Who knows? We'll see. So that is Impact Wrestling. That was a very, very fun show. And I can't wait for more from them. Next up, we got Ring of Honor. Which, honestly, it's been a very fun show for me. I know a lot of people don't like the match format. But it gets the job done for me, I think. And we start out white hot as Willie Mack, making his ROH debut, takes on Claudio Castagnoli. That's right, the ROH World Champion. And boy, oh boy, this was a fight. Like, they threw every big move at each other that you can think of. Match ends, though, very weirdly after a European uppercut by Claudio. And that was it. So I was kind of hoping for a swing at least, but I know people don't like taking that move, so I do understand a little bit. But I was kind of hoping for a little bit more from this match, but both looked really good going into this. Speaking of both looking good, we now have Mike Bennett taking on Dante Martin. That's right, we got the Kingdom versus Top Flight, and honestly, this was a fun one. Dante obviously using more of his speed, while Bennett is a surprisingly technical wrestler. Like a lot of hammer arm DDT for one, and it was so much fun to watch. And then after the triple jump, the trust fall moonsault, Dante Martin gets the win. Post match, Matt Taven does beat, and Mike Bennett do beat down Top Flight. So this rivalry isn't over, and we'll see what happens with this. Next up, we got a tag team match playa as the Trustbusters, which is Slim J and Arya Davari, take on Metalik and Blake Christian. These two teams worked really, really well together. Honestly, Davari's showing me something. Like, I know everyone's like, oh, it's only Arya Davari. Arya Davari's kind of low-key really good. Like, he kept up with Metalik. He did a lot of counters to Blake Christian. But all in all, finish comes with a Spicoli driver for the winners to be Metalik and Blake Christian. Now, later on in the night, the Trustbusters, including, I forget who the other one is, pretty much issuing a challenge to Christian and Metalik to find a third guy, and we'll have a trios match next week. A little bit after that, Christian Metalik interview, they bring out AR Fox, who has recently been teaming up with Top Flight for the trios division. But, yeah, honestly, that was a lot of fun. So, I'm ready for part 2 next week. We then get Eddie Kingston versus Jeeves K, the former, Create a Pro champion, I believe he was. We then, a little bit into the match, we get Claudio Castagnoli in the crowd with a cup of coffee. Both end up outside the ring. Kingston then throws K into the barricade where Claudio is sitting. He then accidentally dumps his coffee all over his shirt, which it's a nice shirt. And then Kingston with the hammer arm, the spinning back fist for the win. Next up, we also get another championship contenders match. Or is it like, I think they call it like a prove yourself match, where it's Athena taking on Hyan, in which, honestly, Hyan got a surprising amount of offense, but all in all, Athena gave in to her dark side. and just threw her all over the arena and gets a surprising submission win via the crossface. Then post-match, she slams down Hayan's face into the title. Bit later on in the evening, she challenges Yuka Sakazaki, who has been out injured and back home in Japan, although apparently she's wrestling, so we'll see where that goes, and challenges her for the future. I believe it's going to be at Supercard WrestleMania week, so that should be fun. We then get the Ring of Honor debut return of Silas Young, the last real man in pro wrestling, as he takes on Marcus Cross, who is, he's a job guy. Quick, clean match. And then, basically Silas runs down his accomplishments and he's ready for the TV title. And there's no one better, more iconic to hold that title than him. Out comes Shane Taylor and pretty much says, you don't think of ROH and don't think of me. So, next week, we're going to have it out. Silas Young versus Shane Taylor. I am in. Then we got the 6-man tag team title match as Dalton and the boys take on the Embassy. That's Khan, Loa, and Brian Cage. And at first, it does look like the Embassy are going to overpower Castle and the boys. There is a little bit of a sense of hope when Castle gets in the ring and cleans house a little bit. But then he goes to for the Bangarang finish, gets blocked off, and just hits an F10 for the win. And man, that was honestly a very fun trios match. I'm definitely interested to see where this goes from here. Post-match, the Embassy beat down Castle and the boys. Out come Blake Christian, Metalik, and AR Fox to make the save. So it looks like we know where we're going for possibly Supercard. So we'll see about that. Next up, we have Matt Sydal and Christopher Daniels making their tag team return as they were Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions in 2006. They beat the Outrunners in a pretty typical short match. Post-match, Aussie Open come out and pretty much challenge Daniels and Sydal for a match later down the line. In which, yes please. And finally, for Ring of Honor, we have the Ring of Honor Pure Title match as Wheeler Yuta defends against Clark Connors. And Yuta has a really sound strategy for these pure matches. Have his opponent go through his ring rope breaks really quickly. He then sneaks a cheap, close fist strike in which you get warned for one of those, but then you get disqualified for one more. So it's definitely a fun back and forth bout in which ultimately Yuta wins with a pretty basic armbar, which that was interesting. Post-match, Wheeler Yuta calls out Katsuyori Shibata, who helped train Clark Connors at the LA Dojo. So, I am definitely here for that. Don't know if it's going to be at Supercard yet, but we'll see. And then Claudio Castagnoli comes out and helps celebrate with Yuta. So, that's Ring of Honor. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And last but not least, Rampage, where we start out with the TNT title on the line as Rey Fenix takes on Powerhouse Hobbs. Hobbs obviously winning the title a week ago against Wardlow. And this match was surprisingly really good. A lot of good offense in for Rey Fenix, including a cutter, which led to a pinfall 2 count. And Hobbs with some amazing power guy offense, including a lot of good spine busters. Like, hot dang. You then finish comes with the torture rack. I don't know what to call the move. Like, I think I missed it the other night because, I was done partying. And yeah, Powerhouse Hobbs retains his title. Post-match, Alexander Brahantes is looking out for Rey Fenix. He then gets backed down by Hobbs, who then walks him right into a QT Marshall diamond cutter. So, we'll see how we get to Hobbs versus Wardlow 2. Next up, in a bit of a backstage vignette, we get Stu Grayson pretty much feeling a little bit let down at his return this past Wednesday against the Blackpool Combat Club. And he's saying he doesn't know if he was really back yet, but now he knows I'm back full time, as we have our first kind of re-signing from AEW. Stu Grayson has been a free agent for a little over a year now, maybe more. And so hopefully he and Evil Uno could at least sniff the tag team titles for AEW. That'd be a lot of fun. Next up, a bit of a squash match, but still pretty interesting. It's Taya Valkyrie's first match back as she takes on Ava Lawless. And it's pretty much basically all Taya. Although Ava did get a little bit in, but not much, after she succumbs to the Road to Valhalla for the win. It is then shown on the ramp that Jade Cargill, Smart Mark Sterling, and Layla Gray were on the ramp watching, taking notes. So we're going to get that title match one day for the TBS title. And finally, our main event of the evening. We have the Jericho Appreciation Society being represented by Kuhan Matt Menard and Angelo Parker taking on the Bollywood Boys. And it was a pretty fun match. A lot of good back and forth. A lot of good high flying stuff from the Singh brothers. But the Singh brothers, the Bollywood Boys. But ultimately, oh no, wait, I'm wrong. It's not, that isn't the main event. So this was a relatively quick match, but still pretty darn good. And ending after a double DDT. And then they mock their current rivals, the Acclaimed, by scissoring. So that's going to be interesting to see where this rivalry goes. Then we get to see a little bit the Guns arriving at their hotel. They then give their bags to Top Flight, who they mistake for employees. Pretty much saying, oh, we're the best brother tag team around. And then Top Flight pretty much say, oh, there's the Lucha Brothers, there's Matt and Nick Jackson. And then pretty much the Guns say, but they don't have the titles, and neither will you. So that match is set for next Wednesday. I'm cool with that. And then we get to our main event. It's Daniel Garcia taking on Brody King. A very usually mismatched match. It does start out as so, as Brody King is just tossing poor Garcia around like ragdoll. Then hits a big black hole slam or what looked like the win. He then kicks out of it. A countered pile driver. A sleeper in which King gets out of it. There's then a roll up for a 2 count. Jericho then comes around, hits Brody King with the bat, knocks him out cold. Garcia then gets him in the crossface for the submission victory. So that is Rampage. That is it for the week. I do apologize, no SmackDown. That'll be coming back next week. And actually, speaking of next week, next Friday, we have Impact Wrestling Sacrifice, which turned out to be a really stacked show. I will not be watching it on Friday because it's going to be on during SmackDown. Instead, I'm going to save it until Saturday and watch it then. So, hopefully you join me for that. I believe I'm going to do my predictions either Friday or... Yeah, I'll probably do my predictions on Friday. And then the next week, it's a good one. It's WrestleMania week. We got Ring of Honor Supercard. We got Impact New Japan Multiverse. And then we got WrestleMania. So that's going to be... Yeah, I'm not going to be covering everything WrestleMania weekend. So we'll see what happens there. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought about this week in pro wrestling. What was your favorite segment? Your favorite announcement? Anything in pro wrestling? Let me know in those comments below. And until next time, happy wrestling, everybody.